My name is Ethan Reed. I'm a landlord living a life of leisure funded by an early, borderline miraculous investment in Bitcoin. Right now, the woman sitting across from me is Claire Vance, a legend in the tech world, an Ice Queen CEO with a net worth in the billions. Her head is bowed, and her voice carries a tremor she can't quite conceal. Mr. Reed, my company has been betrayed from within. Our funding pipeline is shattered, and I urgently need capital to stay afloat. 10 million. Is that possible? I lean back, crossing one leg over the other, and look at the impeccable, calculated exhaustion in her makeup. A cold smile touches my lips. She finally came. 10 million? I could do 20. I slide a black Amex across the table toward her. Leaning forward, my voice drops to a flirtatious murmur. But, Ms. Vance, I don't want interest. And I don't want equity. Give me a child, and we'll call it even. Claire's head snaps up, her eyes blazing with shock and fury. You're dreaming. One Claire stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The door frame shuddered, shaking a few flakes of paint loose from the wall. I didn't move. I picked up the now-cold cup of tea from the table and took a slow sip. 1, 2, 3. I set the cup down. Just as I expected, the determined silhouette outside my door hesitated. She didn't go far. She was just leaning against the peeling paint of the hallway wall, her body coiled as tight as a drawn bowstring. A phone rang, slicing through the tension. She answered, and the little color she had in her face drained away, leaving it as white as paper. I pull out my phone and open a simple, custom-coded app. The voice of her assistant, dripping with theatrical panic, is streaming directly to me. Claire, the bank just pulled out. They're calling in our loans. We're not going to make it. Claire's body gives a violent shudder. I watch the performance with a profound sense of calm, almost wanting to applaud the lead actress and her supporting cast. They were so good, they almost had me believing it. Claire takes a deep, ragged breath and ends a call. The door she had slammed with such finality is pushed open once more. She stands in the doorway, silhouetted against the light, looking like a magnificent marble statue on the verge of cracking. I'll do it. Her voice is hoarse, each word clawed from her throat. I raise an eyebrow in feigned surprise. Change your mind? Spoken like a true CEO, always flexible. She bites her lower lip so hard I'm afraid she'll draw blood. The agreement has to be notarized. It's about the child only. No emotional or marital ties. Once the child is born, we're done. I snap my fingers, grinning like a lowlife who just hit the jackpot. No problem. I hate complications. From a beat-up drawer in the console behind me, I pull out a document and toss it on the table. Have a look. Procreation agreement. My lawyer drew it up weeks ago. Claire's gaze falls on the file, her pupils constricting. There it is, in black and white, the term spelled out with humiliating clarity. To ensure the highest probability of conception, Party B, Vance, must cohabitate with Party A, Reed, for the duration of the agreement. To ensure the health of the fetus, Party B's diet and lifestyle must adhere strictly to the wellness plan provided by Party A. During the conception period, Party B is prohibited from all non-essential contact with any male individual other than Party A. Clause after clause, each one more domineering than the last. She was no longer the untouchable billion-dollar CEO, but a commodity with a price tag, waiting to fulfill her side of a contract. Her hands are trembling, her face even paler than before. I stand up and walk over to her, looking down at her from my full height. What's the matter, Ms. Vance? Just a signature, and $20 million is yours. You can't lose on this deal. She closes her eyes. When she opens them again, they are empty, devoid of life. She picks up the pen and, at the bottom of the agreement, signs her name. Claire Vance. She presses so hard the pen nearly rips through the paper. I collect the agreement, satisfied, and pat her on the shoulder. Pleasure doing business with you, Mrs. Reed. Her entire body goes rigid, shame washing over her like a tidal wave. Claire moved in the same day the agreement was signed. She appeared at the door of my disaster zone of a living room with a single, sleek silver suitcase. I was shirtless, wearing a pair of baggy basketball shorts, cross-legged on the sofa, and deep in a video game. Boom! Ooh. I throw the controller down in triumph. only then noticing her standing in the doorway. Claire's brow is furrowed in a deep knot, her gaze sweeping from the discarded takeout containers and a mountain of craft beer cans to my own sweaty, disheveled state. The disgust in her eyes is a tangible thing. I get up lazily, pick up the agreement from the coffee table, and point to a specific line. Clause 1. Party A reserves the right to require Party B to maintain a clean and orderly living environment. I flash her a wide grin. After you, Ms. Vance. She remains silent, setting down her suitcase without a word. Then, like a robot programmed for a single task, she begins to clean. I watch as she methodically transforms my den of squalor into something resembling a habitable space, a strange sense of satisfaction washing over me. The woman lauded on the cover of Forbes as a titan of tech is, at this moment, cleaning my apartment like a housekeeper. I cross my legs, tear open a bag of potato chips, and begin eating, deliberately flicking crumbs onto the floor she just mopped. Her movements pause for a half second. Her back is to me, but I can practically feel the fury radiating from her. Finally, she hits her breaking point. She snatches the game controller from my hand and shuts off the TV. The agreement also states, her voice is ice, that Party A must cooperate with Party B's health and wellness regimen. It's 10 p.m. Go take a shower. Now. I blink, then break into a laugh. Interesting. She's fighting back. I whistle a tune and saunter into the bathroom. But a new, awkward problem quickly presents itself. There's only one toothbrush holder on the counter with one toothbrush in it. She walks in, holding her own electric toothbrush and a case of expensive toiletries, and just stares at my single, slightly stained holder. Right in front of her, I take her toothbrush and stick it in my holder. You'll have to make do, Ms. Vance. I see a blush creep up her neck, spreading across her cheeks. Later that night, the real test begins. My bedroom is only one bed, a king size but still. I point to it, my voice oozing with false reason. The agreement is clear. We have to share a bed to, increase the odds. She doesn't say a word. She just takes several pillows from her suitcase and builds a neat, formidable wall down the center of the mattress. Dressed in a set of the most modest silk pajamas I've ever seen, she lies down on her side of the divide, facing away from me, her body as stiff as a board. I can feel her trying to breathe as quietly as possible. In the middle of the night, I roll over with deliberate casualness. My arm accidentally lands on her waist. Her body instantly freezes, her breath catching in her throat. I smirk in the darkness, leaning close to her ear, and whisper in a voice only she can hear. You're so tense, Ms. Vance. That's not going to help our collaboration. Her body trembles even more violently. On the third day of our cohabitation, Claire's performance resumes. Her assistant calls again, reporting on the company's supposedly dire situation. She retreats to the balcony, her voice low, but the anxiety and helplessness feel manufactured, as if they're meant for an audience of one. Is the funding gap still that big? Is Leo Finch still coming after us? I know. I'll figure something out. I walk over with a glass of warm milk, handing it to her the moment she hangs up. You look worried. That doesn't seem like the billionaire CEO I read about. She jumps, startled. Seeing me, her expression becomes complicated as she accepts the glass. You. She hesitates. Who are you, really? Are you just a landlord? I just smile, not answering her question. Instead, I point to my office, a room I usually keep locked. Besides collecting rent, I build a few apps on the side. Pocket money. I open the door and let her peek inside. There are no books, just rows of humming server racks and multiple monitors flashing with cascading lines of dense code. A flicker of genuine shock crosses her face. Clearly, a landlord who builds and maintains his own server farm doesn't fit into her worldview. For the first time, she seems curious about me beyond the lazy, crypto bro persona. After she leaves the balcony, I go back into the office and lock the door. From a drawer in the very back of my desk, I pull out an old picture frame. It's a college graduation photo. Out of hundreds of students, she's in the front row, wearing her cap and gown, her smile bright and confident. She looks like a distant, unreachable star. And me? I'm in the back, a face in the corner, so blurry you can't even make out my features. But I know that my eyes, then and always, were locked on her. I run my thumb over the back of the frame. Taped there's a small printout of a message from a friend of mine, a private investigator, sent a few days ago. Confirmed. Vance Capital is solid. Thriving, actually, just closed 2 major deals. That rival she mentioned, Leo Finch, is barely a threat. She's faking the bankruptcy to get to you. The assistant's calls are all pre-recorded. I look at the smiling girl in the photo and whisper to myself, Claire, what are you really up to? But since you went to all this trouble to walk right into my life, you're not getting away. This is a secret only I, and you, the reader, know. This isn't my one-man show. We're both playing a part, turning the other's scheme to our own advantage. She just doesn't know it yet. She thinks she's the hunter, but she's been my prey from the very beginning. For the days tick by, and soon enough, we arrive at the date circled in red on the calendar. I slap the printed-out conception schedule on the dining table, using a thick red marker to draw another heavy circle around tonight's date. Ms. Vance, the stars have aligned. A most auspicious evening for collaboration. I give her a wink. Claire's face instantly flushes a deep crimson. The color spreads from her cheeks to the tips of her ears and down her elegant neck. She's a nervous wreck all day. She drops and shatters my favorite coffee mug while drinking her morning milk. She nearly trips over thin air while bringing in the laundry from the balcony. By evening, she's barricaded herself in the bathroom for nearly an hour. The shower runs continuously, as if she's trying to scrub off a layer of skin. I'm already showered and ready, leaning against the headboard with a book in my hands, though I haven't absorbed a single word. The main lights are off, leaving only a single dim wall lamp to cast a soft glow over the room. The air is thick with a mixture of tension and anticipation. The bathroom door finally opens. She emerges in those familiar, modest pajamas, her head down, her long hair damp and clinging to her shoulders. She climbs stiffly into her side of the bed, closes her eyes, and her long lashes flutter like a butterfly's wings. She looks like a prisoner awaiting her sentence. I put down my book and lean over her. The mattress dips with my weight. I can smell the clean, fragrant scent of her skin, feel the heat radiating from her body. She is braced for a rough, transactional encounter. But I don't do that. I simply reach out and gently brush the damp strands of hair from her forehead. Then a soft, tender kiss lands on her skin. It's light, gentle. Don't be afraid. I murmur, my own voice hoarse with nerves. We're just fulfilling the contract. Her body shudders, but the resistance I expected never comes. As my kiss travels from her forehead to the tip of her nose and finally to her tightly pressed lips, her tense body begins, slowly, to relax under my careful touch. Eventually, she even offers a tentative, clumsy response. That night, the cold clauses of the contract dissolve into a moment of undeniable, heart-stopping connection. Afterward, she lies with her back to me, curled into a ball, her shoulders shaking slightly. I don't know if she's crying from the humiliation of the transaction or for some other reason entirely. I move closer and gently wrap my arms around her from behind. It's just an agreement. Don't overthink it, I say, as much to myself as to her. But my heart is hammering against my ribs, threatening to beat its way out of my chest. The feeling of her, warm and real in my arms, makes me hate the ridiculous piece of paper that brought us together. 5, according to the agreement, I had to take Claire on 1 date per week to cultivate a procreative mood. I picked a new French restaurant that was getting a lot of buzz for its celebrity chef. Claire, wearing a tasteful white dress and light makeup, looked stunning. Even with her usual cool demeanor, her presence seemed to brighten the entire room. I, on the other hand, showed up in a t-shirt and flip-flops, sticking out like a sore thumb among the sea of suits and cocktail dresses. Could you at least try to look presentable? Claire hissed, frowning. What's wrong with this? I'm comfortable, I said, sawing into my steak. Just then a smug, oily voice cut in. Well, if it isn't the great Claire Vance. To what do we owe the honor? I look up to see a man in a flashy pink suit, a generic-looking influencer on his arm, a fake smile plastered on his face. Leo Finch, the #1 villain from Claire's script, a senior from her college days, and now her business rival. Claire's expression instantly turns to ice. Leo pretends not to notice, his eyes flicking over me with contempt, lingering for a few seconds on my flip-flops. Your taste is getting more and more unique, Claire. What's the matter? Company going under, so you can't even find a decent date anymore? Reduced to dining with. His words are daggers, each one aimed at her carefully constructed facade. He keeps going, his voice just loud enough for the neighboring tables to hear. I heard your funding dried up, and you're begging for money. You should have just said so. Get on your knees and ask nicely, and maybe I'll be in a good enough mood to buy out that little disaster of yours. I might even keep you on. You. Claire is trembling with rage, her face pale, her knuckles white as she grips her knife and fork. I slowly wipe my mouth with my napkin. Then I stand up. At 6'1", I tower over Leo, even with the lifts in his designer shoes. I pull a stunned Claire into my arms, letting her lean against my chest. I smile at Leo, but the smile doesn't reach my eyes. You don't need to worry about my woman's company, Finch. Even if she decided to burn the whole thing to the ground for fun, I can cover it. Leo's face shifts, clearly not expecting the kept man to talk back. You? You can cover it? Do you have any idea how much debt she's in? I ignore him, taking out my phone and dialing a number, putting it on speaker. Sully, a respectful voice answers on the other end. Ethan, what do you need? Finch Industries. I want you to short the stock. Right now. All of it. Done. The call ends. The whole thing took less than 30 seconds. Leo's expression melts from condescension to shock, then to pure panic. His phone buzzes almost immediately, his assistant's frantic voice on the other end. Mr. Finch, it's a disaster. Our stock. Someone is launching a massive short-selling attack. The price is collapsing. Leo fumbles with his phone, sweat beading on his forehead, completely forgetting about us. I take Claire, who is still staring in disbelief, and lead her past him. As we walk by, I lean in and whisper in her ear. If you're going to sell a story, you have to commit to the part. Your white knight needs to look like he can actually fight dragons, right? Claire freezes, looking up at me, her beautiful eyes filled with an expression I've never seen before. Utter, dumbfounded shock. The ride home is silent. Claire hasn't said a word, but I can feel her gaze on me, stealing glances when she thinks I'm not looking. Her eyes are filled with confusion, suspicion, and a sliver of curiosity she can no longer hide. At a red light, I stop the car and turn to her. See something you like? I ask, trying to break the tension. She shakes her head, her expression serious. Ethan, who are you? It's the second time she's asked me that today. I don't answer right away. I start the car again and drive to Gasworks Park, pulling over at the viewpoint overlooking Lake Union. The city lights glitter across the water. I kill the engine and stare out at the skyline. I'm the coward who's been in love with you for 7 years and could only think of this stupid, clumsy way to get close to you. My voice is quiet, but the words hit her like a thunderclap. She sits frozen, stunned, her eyes wide with disbelief. I reach into the glove compartment and pull out the old photo frame I carry with me, handing it to her. Remember this? University of Washington, commencement. You were the student speaker. You looked so confident, so brilliant up there on that stage. I was in the back row, just watching you, thinking you were a star, and I had no business even being in the same orbit. Claire looks at the photo, her fingers tracing the image of her younger self at the podium, then moving to the blurry figure in the corner. Her mind flashes back to that long ago summer afternoon. Later, I heard you started your own company from scratch. I knew how hard you were working. A few times I saw you at networking events, forcing yourself to drink with investors until late at night. I wanted to help you, but I was afraid of wounding that incredible pride of yours. Then, I got lucky with crypto. Suddenly I was this new money guy, and I felt even further away from you. I was afraid you'd think I was just some vulgar cliché. I laugh, a bitter, self-deprecating sound. Claire's eyes begin to redden. She never knew. She never knew that in the corners she never looked, a pair of eyes had been watching her for all those years. She never imagined that the brash, infuriating man who had trapped her with a ridiculous contract was hiding a love this deep, this humble. There was another time. I continue. Junior year, final exams. You were studying in Sazalo Library and got hit with terrible stomach cramps. It was me. I was the one who left the hot water and the Pepto-Bismol on your table. Claire's body jolts. Of course, she remembers. She was in agony that day, a cold sweat on her brow, when a stranger silently placed a thermos and a box of medicine on her desk and then simply walked away. She'd always thought it was just some kind, anonymous upperclassman. It was him. In that instant, all of her defenses crumble. Fat tears roll down her cheeks. "I'm sorry." Her voice is choked with sobs. "I'm so sorry, Ethan. I'm a liar. My company is fine. I'm not bankrupt. I didn't know how else to get close to you." The confession tumbles out of her. It turns out, at that graduation ceremony, she had noticed the quiet boy in the back row. It turns out, she remembered that cup of hot water for all these years. It turns out, her elaborate, calculated deception was born from the same secret, unspoken affection. The truth is out. The car is silent, filled only with the collision of two powerful, long-repressed emotions. All this time, we both thought we were acting in a play of our own making. We never knew we were co-conspirators in a story of mutual devotion. 7 back at the apartment. I walk straight to the safe in my bedroom, punch in the code, and open it. From inside, I remove the carefully preserved procreation agreement. Claire stands behind me, watching confused. I take the document, walk back to her, and, right in front of her eyes, I rip it to shreds. The pieces of paper flutter down between us like confetti. There is no Party A and Party B anymore. I say, cupping her tear-stained face in my hands and gently wiping away a tear with my thumb. There's only Ethan and Claire. I lean down and kiss her. This kiss isn't a contractual obligation, tinged with games and speculation. It's filled with the relief of a long-lost treasure finally found, and years of repressed devotion finally unleashed. Claire rises on her toes, wrapping her arms around my neck, and kisses me back with an equal, burning passion. From that day forward, the entire dynamic of our life together shifted. She no longer called me the formal, distant Mr. Reed. It became Ethan, a name spoken with a warmth she herself didn't seem to notice. To honor my side of the now-voided health regimen, I quit drinking and even started learning to cook. The kitchen became a daily disaster zone of cut fingers and splattered oil. She would laugh at me, calling me a clumsy oaf, while tenderly disinfecting my wounds and applying colorful cartoon band-aids. When she was working, I would play video games on mute beside her, no longer trying to annoy her. Every hour, I'd silently place a glass of water or a plate of cut fruit on her desk. The wall of pillows between us vanished. Every night, she would curl up against me, listening as I told her stories about all the times I'd secretly watched her in college. Of course, there was friction amidst the sweetness. One afternoon, I was chatting for a bit too long with the cute barista at the coffee shop downstairs. When I got back, Claire gave me the silent treatment for the rest of the day, radiating a powerful, "I am not pleased" aura. I cornered her against the wall, leaning down to look into her eyes. "Are you jealous, Ms. Vance?" She turned her head away, her voice defiant. "No." I chuckled, deciding to tease her. You know, the agreement never said Party B couldn't interfere with Party A's personal life. That did it. She spun back, her face flushed, glaring at me. "That agreement is void." "All right, it's void," I said, nodding slowly as if in sudden realization. Then I silenced her indignant protests with a kiss. In that case, I murmured against her lips, "I guess I'm all yours now, Ms. Vance." The calm didn't last long. Leo Finch, the man I had thoroughly humiliated at the restaurant, soon realized something was wrong. Claire's company wasn't just solvent, it was soaring. Thanks to some anonymous intel I had fed her, she had landed a massive, highly profitable overseas contract, and her company stock was skyrocketing. Leo realized he'd been played by both of us. He was a laughingstock in our social and business circles. Furious and humiliated, Leo snapped. He began to use every dirty trick in the book to launch a real attack against Claire's company. This was no longer part of script. It was all-out corporate warfare. He bribed a senior executive at Vance Capital, who then leaked the schematics for a core technology they had in development. Leo's company stole the project, which Claire had poured her heart into, and fast-tracked a patent application. The news broke, and Claire's stock plummeted. Partners began pulling out of deals, and the banks started calling in their loans. This time, the crisis was real. Claire was overwhelmed, spending days and nights at the office, growing visibly exhausted and frail. I didn't act like some romance novel hero and just throw a pile of money at the problem. I knew that would wound her pride. Instead, I went to her office every day. I brought her meals. While she was in board meetings, I sat at her desk with my laptop, calmly analyzing market data and mapping out strategies. I leveraged every contact and every skill I had built up from my side hustle. My fingers flew across the keyboard, lines of code a blur on the screen. I started running traces, digging into Leo's digital footprint, collecting evidence of every shady deal and tax evasion scheme he'd ever been a part of. When Claire finished her meeting and dragged her weary body back to her office, that's the scene she walked in on. I was in her chair, my expression intensely focused, a universe away from the lazy landlord she had first met. Once again, she felt that I was both intimately familiar and a complete stranger. But more than that, she felt a profound, unprecedented sense of security. I noticed her standing there and stopped typing, opening my arms to her. She walked over and sank onto my lap, burying her head in my chest. "Don't be afraid," I said softly, holding her tight. "I used to be too weak to stand beside you, and I let you face the world alone. Not anymore. If the sky falls, I'll hold it up for you." She nodded fiercely against my chest. This was the first time we were truly fighting side by side. Our bond, forged in the crucible of this shared crisis, was becoming unbreakable. Leo Finch thought he had already won. He brazenly announced a massive gala to celebrate the launch of his new project, inviting every major player in the industry, along with the press. He wanted to utterly destroy Claire, to ruin her reputation for good. That was exactly what we were counting on. At my suggestion, Claire's company feigned a complete collapse. We even deliberately leaked plans for another core project as bait. The mole took it and passed it right along to Leo. As expected, Leo, blinded by greed, poured a massive amount of capital into acquiring this new project we had hand-fed him. In that time, I had gathered irrefutable digital proof of his theft of intellectual property, along with a complete chain of evidence detailing years of accounting fraud and tax evasion. The stage was set. On the night of the gala, Leo stood on stage, preening, delivering a bombastic speech about his visionary plans for the future. At that moment, the grand doors to the ballroom swung open. Claire and I walked in hand. Every head in the room turned. Leo's face darkened for a moment, then twisted into a condescending sneer. "Look what the cat dragged in. Here to beg for scraps from my table." I ignored him and snapped my fingers. The massive screen behind him, which had been looping a promotional video, suddenly went black. A second later, it flickered to life, playing crystal-clear security footage of Leo in a coffee shop, sliding a briefcase full of cash to the traitorous executive. This was followed by screenshots from his company's internal servers, displaying cookbooks and embezzled funds in shocking detail. Leo's world imploded. His face went as white as a sheet. The room erupted in gasps and frantic murmuring. Claire calmly walked onto the stage, took the microphone from the stunned MC, and spoke, her voice steady and clear. "Mr. Finch just spent the last half hour giving a wonderful presentation for a project my company had already abandoned due to significant, unresolvable technical flaws. On behalf of Vance Capital, I'd like to thank him for helping us dispose of a pile of research that was headed for the shredder." Just then, the ballroom doors opened again. A group of uniformed police officers walked in and made a direct line for the stage. "Mr. Finch, you're under arrest for corporate espionage, anti-competitive practices, and multiple counts of financial fraud. Please come with us." Leo collapsed to the floor. I walked onto the stage, took Claire's hand, and held it high for every camera and every guest to see. "And while I have your attention," my voice was calm, but it carried through the stunned silence of the hall. "I'd like to introduce you all to Claire Vance, my fiancée." The room erupted once more. Claire looked at me, her eyes shimmering with tears of shock and joy. Under the glare of 100 flashing cameras, I leaned down and kissed my queen. With the crisis averted, our lives settled into a new, sweet rhythm. My dramatic announcement at the gala made our relationship public knowledge. I became the subject of intense speculation in the business press. This mystery billionaire who had come out of nowhere. They could dig up nothing, however, other than the fact that I was an insanely lucky early crypto investor. I was happy to stay out of the limelight, my greatest joy being finding new ways to spoil my fiancée. But recently, I noticed some odd changes in Claire. She was tired all the time, sometimes even dozing off in the middle of meetings. And the braised pork belly she used to love now made her nauseous at the slightest smell. One evening at dinner, watching her pick at her food, I joked, for someone so smart, you're showing all the classic symptoms. You don't think our little contract accidentally went into effect, do you? Claire blushed and shot me a glare. Don't be ridiculous. But even as she said it, a thought took root in her mind. The next day, while I was out dealing with one of my properties, she slipped out to a pharmacy and bought a pregnancy test. Standing in the bathroom, she stared at the two bright pink lines, her mind a complete blank. Joy, panic, disbelief. A whirlwind of emotions left her completely unsure of how to tell me. She hid the test in the back of her vanity drawer, deciding to wait for the right moment. What she didn't know was that when I got home, I saw the empty box in the bathroom trash. I didn't confront her. I pretended I knew nothing. But my actions gave me away. I started researching recipes for pregnant women, replacing the rich, heavy meals with light, nourishing soups. I put soft corner guards on all the sharp-edged furniture in the house. I even hid her entire collection of 4-inch heels, replacing them with a row of stylish, comfortable flats. Claire noticed all these strange little changes, and her heart swelled with a mixture of warmth and amusement. This man always had his own clumsy, sincere way of showing his love. Finally, one weekend evening, we were curled up on the sofa watching a movie. She rested her head on my chest, tracing idle circles on my shirt with her finger. After a long silence, she spoke, her voice barely a whisper. Ethan, I think our contract is about to be forcibly executed. I froze for a second, then felt a wave of pure elation wash over me. But I kept my cool, looking down at her with faint surprise. Really? She nodded, her cheeks glowing. I scooped her up into my arms and spun her around the living room. This is amazing. Claire, I'm going to be a dad. The child, once a bargaining chip in a cold transaction, was coming to us now in a moment of pure, unadulterated love. It was the greatest gift we could have ever received. 11 after learning Claire was pregnant, I started planning something big. One Friday afternoon, I told her we needed to sign a new contract. She looked at me, puzzled. What contract? Why would we need a contract? I just smiled mysteriously. This one is important. It has to be signed. I drove her, not to her office and not to City Hall, but back to the University of Washington campus where we had first met. Classes had just let out, and the grounds were buzzing with students. I led her by the hand down the main quad and into the familiar, hallowed halls of Sozalo Library. In the corner of the grand reading room, the very spot where I had watched her study all those years ago, a transformation had occurred. The space was now filled with tiny, twinkling fairy lights, like a miniature galaxy, and the air smelled faintly of gardenias. Claire gasped, covering her mouth with her hand. From behind my back, I produced a beautifully bound document. On the cover, in gold foil letters, were the words, "The Lifetime Binding Agreement." Smiling through her tears, Claire opened it. Inside, there were no cold legal clauses. Instead, it was filled with photographs chronicling our story. There was a candid shot I'd taken from the back of the crowd at graduation, of her at the podium. There was a picture of her from the first day she came to my apartment, her expression a perfect blend of desperation and pride. There was a photo of the first time she tried to cook for me, standing in the middle of a smoke-filled kitchen. There was the tearful embrace we shared at Gasworks Park after we confessed everything. And finally, a photo I had secretly taken just a few days ago of her standing outside the bathroom door, looking at the positive pregnancy test with a look of pure shock and wonder. Flipping through the pages was like watching a movie of our lives. On the final page was a picture of me, down on one knee. Next to the photo was a small, recessed square. Nestled inside, a diamond ring glittered in the soft light. I took the ring from the book and knelt before her for real. Claire, that ridiculous old contract is null and void. But now, I'm asking if you'll sign a new one. This one lasts a lifetime, with no exit clauses. Party A is me, Ethan Reed. Party B is you, Claire Vance. And the beneficiaries are us, and a little one on the way. Tears were streaming freely down her face now. She looked at me and nodded again and again. Yes, she whispered. I will. I slid the ring on her finger, and there, in the quiet corner of the library, under a canopy of starlight, I deeply kissed my bride. 5 years later, on a bright afternoon, sunlight streamed through the large windows of our Seattle home, warming the living room rug. I was stretched out on the sofa. Claire was leaning against me, reading a book on market economics. Our daughter, Eleanor, whose nickname was Millie, was toddling around the rug, clutching a stuffed doll that looked suspiciously like me. Her full name was Eleanor Vance Reed, but I had insisted on the nickname. Claire had protested for weeks, but eventually I wore her down. Millie, tired from her adventures, climbed onto the sofa and squeezed in between us. She blinked her big eyes, a perfect copy of mine, and asked, Mommy, Daddy, how did you two meet? My teacher at preschool told us to ask. Claire and I caught each other's eye, a shared, secret smile passing between us. I cleared my throat and spoke to my daughter with the utmost seriousness. Well, a long time ago, your mommy's company was about to go broke, and she owed Daddy $20 million. Millie's eyes grew wide. Wow, did she ever pay you back? I reached out and gently booped her little nose. Nope, she skipped out on the bill. So instead, she gave me you as payment. Ethan, Claire laughed, giving me a playful swat. She pulled our daughter into a hug. Don't listen to your father's nonsense, she said softly. The truth is, Daddy had a huge crush on Mommy for years, but he was too scared to say anything. So he set a little trap to trick Mommy into coming home with him. Millie nodded, processing this new information with a child's simple logic. Oh, I get it, she declared. Daddy is the big bad wolf, and Mommy is Little Red Riding Hood. I laughed, wrapping my arms around both of them, pulling them into a tight hug. The sun was warm. Our life was peaceful. I leaned down and kissed Claire's forehead, then Millie's cheek. This was it. This was what my $20 million contract had bought me. My unique, my irreplaceable, my priceless treasure.